Town Bank Mortgage, NMLS number 512138, is an equal housing lender. This podcast is for informational purposes only. And now, the man born with a 5 o'clock shadow and with the NMLS number 2028-201. He is a gentleman. He is a scholar. He is
Tyler Cralle.
All right, welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Cape Fear Report. I, of course, am the host, the aforementioned host of this podcast, Tyler Cralle, and loan officer here at Town Bank Mortgage Wilmington. And joining me here in the studio, and this will be the third show in 3 weeks. That's what we call a streak. And so I'm very excited. 3 shows in a row. And so I'm very excited that Don Harris, who is my next guest here in studio, was able to keep the streak alive. And so, Don, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, Don, let's start from the beginning, as I always like to do, and tell us kind of how you got started in real estate.
How I got started in real estate. It's a neat story. I used to sell security systems for ADT. I was on a sales call one day. The building blew up, and a few people lost their lives, and it kind of rattled my cage. I had just gotten my broker's license, but I wasn't full-time, and my wife's a commercial broker, and she says, honey, I've got residential leads from my commercial clients. Why don't you get out of that security industry and come do real estate full-time? So 2003, I switched over to full-time real estate.
And Don is with Intracoastal Realty. You are actually the first agent I've interviewed at Intracoastal, so we broke the seal.
I'm first at something. I always ask my wife if I was the only one she's been with. She says, yeah, all the others been 9s and 10s.
That's pretty good. So have you been with Intracoastal the whole time?
No, I've been with them since 2012. I started with, who did I start with? Century 21, Brock and Associates back in 03 with Danny and Faye Brock.
So you started with ADT, so you were kind of somewhat in real estate a little bit. So there was
I was in sales.
Okay, gotcha.
I was in sales,
okay.
yeah.
And so that's just sort of how you decided to go with real estate? So how long was your wife in
She's been
commercial?
in the business 28 years.
Okay, gotcha.
And nothing but commercial. She got her license back in the 80s. But when our son was born, she sold her computer business and went into real estate full-time because of the flexible hours.
Gotcha.
And she did quite well. But then she just talked me right into it. I was a little rattled when that building, after whole thing. And my company, ADT, discouraged me from talking about it.
I got you. Well, yeah, I could see that.
So,
and so it's interesting, the flexible hours, because I do feel like that is one of the things that's kind of a misnomer about real estate, is because a lot of people, they see real estate agents and it seems like, especially if you watch Instagram and Facebook and social media, it's like everyone's living these like fabulous lives and no one's ever doing any work. And it is kind of funny, because what I've noticed since being in this business, on the mortgage side, is that you're either, it seems, really busy or you're dead. Yep. And you actually, sometimes it's kind of fun when you have a little downtime, but after like a couple of days, you start getting a little worried. Yeah,
because you don't get a closing, you don't get paid.
Exactly.
And we wanted our son to take over our businesses. He's a CPA, and he says, no, I need to know how much I'm making each month.
Yeah.
So it could be feast or famine.
No, that's true. I mean, it definitely requires a certain type of person to not have like that, be a commission, any commission-based sales. And so, I mean, so you said you were a salesman at ADT, so you were kind of already in that kind of mindset.
Yeah. Well, I started in real estate in Virginia in 1989, selling large tracts of land up in Virginia near Lynchburg and Lexington.
Oh, really?
We'd buy 1,000 acres, timber it, and then sell off 25-acre tracts. So my office was my truck hood. I would write contracts on the truck hood, but I said, look at this property. It's got beautiful trees. Yeah, I love it. Well, think about it without any trees. And they still bought it.
What? So I went to college in Lynchburg. My dad's actually from Lynchburg, and so I'm a big fan of that area. I think it's a gorgeous area, beautiful area.
I guess you hung out at Trotters.
Trotters was actually somewhat far away from where I went there a couple times. Okay. And what's funny is you can still buy their Bloody Mary mix.
Really?
Because I think I can't remember if it's still open or not, but they sell their Bloody Mary mix online, and so you can buy.
We live right down from Randy Mack on the main boulevard, so that was our hang up. My office was in Madison Heights,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
just across the river.
My mom actually went to Randolph-Macon.
Okay.
Now it's Randolph College.
Yeah. Okay.
when it was an all-girls school, and then like a lot of schools that sort of limit their students, they couldn't survive, and so they ended up becoming a co-ed school. So they had to change the name because there was already a Randolph-Macon in Virginia. Okay. But I love that area. That's an awesome area. And so so what brought you down to Wilmington?
Well, I left Chapel Hill. I graduated Chapel Hill in '88 and didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I went. A guy offered me a job selling real estate, selling the large tracts. And up there, I moved to Wilmington first in '73, and that's my home. That's where I was. And so getting away from there, not being close to the coach, I said, it was December 1989. I said, I'm coming back to Wilmington. Okay. And I moved back, and the rest is history, so they say.
And so, so you've been in since 2003. So you've seen the two probably biggest changes in real estate, which would be 08 and then, of course, COVID. And that's one of the things I always love to get people's perspective on is, what do you think? I mean, because there were some similarities, sort of the run up before the crash with the craziness going on. And then, COVID, we had that run up, but, it was funny because everyone was like, oh, here comes the crash. They're waiting for the crash. Yep. And so there clearly was a fundamental thing. Most people point to the lending side. There weren't the appraisers. Yes.
They were in cahoots.
Exactly. And so so is that what you think kind of the big difference was between the two run ups?
Well, yeah, back in 4, 5, and 6, 2004, 5, and 6. Yeah. All you had to do was breathe. You had no doc loans. And then the appraisers were going in and saying, oh, you bought this 2 months ago. It's already worth $25,000 more in 2 months. And so it just kept snowballing. And everybody says, oh, there's no bust in sight. The bubble will never pop. Well, sure as heck it did. And 8, 9, and 10, that was ugly. But in 20, it was COVID, and everybody wanted to work from home. Mm-hmm. So they came here to work from home, and I guess was it RESPA Act that changed everything about your requirements for lending, and the appraisers got slapped on the wrist too. So you can't 4% annually appreciation is realistic, not 25% every month.
Well, I mean, I think that was it, and also essentially what happened was, and I mentioned this before, it was almost the exact opposite, where everyone forgets that in 07 or 08, I think it was 07, the Fed actually raised rates. Mm-hmm. And that caused all of those adjustable rates to adjust higher. And when the equity disappeared, if there was any to begin with, all of a sudden it made sense to walk away from your home, where you could rent for cheaper because there was overbuilding in some areas, so you had too many rental properties. So you could rent for almost half of what your new mortgage was going to be with no equity, walk away. Where in COVID, everyone's got a 2.5% mortgage, and they're like, "I'm not getting out of this house."
Yeah, who would have thought 2.5%? I refinanced my primary at 2.58.
Yeah,
for 15 years. I mean, that's free money.
I know. You want a refi?
No.
Could take the equity out. But no, I mean, and so to me, that's really sort of the big difference. Where the first thing they got rid of was their house. This is the last thing they're going to walk away from is their house. And so, but also, did you feel that the COVID kind of craziness was crazier than 04, 05? Not necessarily, but just with like the no inspections, way over, crazy DDs. I mean, all that stuff.
Well, we never saw that in 06. Of course, okay. I don't think we really even had DD back in 06.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
So it was just earnest money.
Yeah.
And all were fundable. But when people started putting down $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 non-refundable due diligence and never have seen the property.
Yeah.
It's absurd. I mean, and that's why we're in the state we're in today.
True.
Is that they paid too much for the properties. Now, the property values are still going up because of supply and demand, but the rates are slowing things down.
Yeah.
So there's a pent-up demand that's going to burst hopefully next year.
Yeah. We've been saying that since 23, it feels like. But no, I mean, there is this pent-up demand. There's no doubt about that. And I do feel like you're seeing a lot of people kind of talk themselves out of buying because they're like, oh, rates are bad. And you have a lot of these real estate gurus on YouTube who are like, yeah, you shouldn't buy, like you should rent. And I mean, you can kind of see where they're coming from, but when you actually break the numbers down, it's awful advice. And they're scaring people because if you are someone who's younger, let's say you're mid-30s and younger, you're just not used to seeing rates where they are. No. So you're like, oh, this is, can't believe this is happening, when really this is more kind of
5 and 6 is normal.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's where it should be.
Yeah.
That's realistic. I mean, my parents had I think it was 18% mortgage back in the 80s, but they got spoiled with 3% or 2.5%, and they think, oh, that's the normal. No way, dude. So, but people are going to buy houses.
They are,
and we keep telling them, the rates are high now. Mm-hmm. Refi. So buy now, because when you wait till the rates come down, then there's going to be a bidding war and the prices are going to go skyrocketing. You're going to pay more. You could have just bought now and refinanced.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do think that is good advice. I think one of the things that you see a lot of maybe shadier kind of LOs who are desperate for business will be like, oh, it's okay if you can barely afford the payment, you'll be able to refi. And it's like, if you're comfortable making the payment, you should be purchasing, and then hope you can refi and get a little relief. But you have seen these horror stories where people get into a house assuming they're going to be able to refi in a year.
Yeah, that's true.
There's just no evidence that might happen or not.
I always counsel my clients, especially the first-time buyers, you got to set your budget, and you can't anticipate a refi or a pay raise. You got to be able to say, I can afford this house today for the next 2-3 years. If I get a pay raise, that's good. But you can't buy more than you can afford. Yeah. You'll lose it.
Yeah. And I mean, and obviously on the mortgage side, we do have ratios that you need to meet and stuff, but you can see people push them. You're like, are you sure that's what you want to do?
Mom and dad can help too.
That's true. That's another great thing.
Intergenerational transfer of wealth. What's that? Inheritance?
Yes.
So that's helping people, but that money will run out too.
Well, no, that's true. I mean, but I think that is one of the interesting things is that, just over the last 40, 50 years in this country, like the wealth that's been created. And for the first time, I mean, you look at the stats, and I think it's the highest it's been, where the mom and dad or, grandma and grandpa are helping out the child who's buying their first time home. And people, they talk about, does that mean there's something wrong with the system? When really what it's showing you is that this is just sort of kind of what's happened over the last 40, 50 years, where 50 years ago, parents didn't have the money to give their kids for a down payment. So it's not as negative as everyone's making it out to be.
We bought a townhouse for our son. Who moved him back from Wilmington, from Raleigh to here, because we wanted him here. He's our only child, and he's got to cut the grass, clean the gutters. Yeah. But we bought the townhouse to lock in the price, and then hopefully the equity gain in a year or two would be a down payment. Yeah. Now, we're not going to make any money. We'll get whole. Yeah. But he gets his first property, and he starts building equity, starts building wealth. And that's what real estate does, build wealth.
Yeah, and I do think there's sort of a mindset change that it's slowly happening. But, you saw someone who bought a house in 2020, and then by 2025, it had appreciated by 90%. And it's like, that's not the way that most people made money. The way you made money was you made your payments, maybe more if you had the money, and then eventually you paid down your loan, and then after maybe 10 years you had 20-30% equity because of the payments. And I do think people need to kind of get back into that mindset where it's like, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to flip it in a year, I'm not going to do anything to it. That's gone.
Well, we still think that you take the equity to buy another piece of real estate.
Yes.
You don't get rich in real estate, but you get wealthy. You
Yes.
build wealth by buying other properties. I told my son when he was young, I said, there's 3 things you need to learn: compound interest, supply and demand, and OPM, other people's money. Let them buy that property for you.
We are happy to do that at Town.
Good.
And so, like I said, another thing that's sort of also interesting that's happening in the marketplace is, I think I saw a stat the other day that, and on our side, independent mortgage companies, I think in 2022, there were like 200,000 licenses or something like that. That number has now fallen to 70 or 80,000. And so you've clearly seen, now that doesn't include, institutions like ours with the bank and some other mortgage companies, but it does show that there's been a drop off.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so, I'm assuming the same thing on the real estate side.
Well, I think our association now has about 3,500 members, and we always factor either a decrease or increase each year for budgeting. But we've been factoring increase. Getting into this business just right now would be difficult. I couldn't imagine, especially if you've just moved to Wilmington and you've just been in real estate a year or two. It's hard to compete with agents who've been here multiple years and have a lot of experience, because now you got to sell yourself to the client to get a buyer's agency agreement. What's your worth? How do you justify the compensation you want? And if you've only been in the business a year, it's hard to sell yourself.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, agents coming in, but we're also seeing them fall out. I mean, I tell people who want to get in the business, you better have 6 months of income in your bank, because you're not going to get a deal the first month or two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Also, just kind of being in the business in general. I mean, you always want to have a little reserve just in case things slow down. I mean, because we're also seeing sort of a return to seasonality with the housing market, where it does feel like the last couple of weeks are a little slower than they were, a month ago. Yeah,
people are more focused on school, and then they get into the Labor Day holiday. Then we get into October. Then we get into Thanksgiving. Then we get into Christmas. But people are always buying houses.
Yeah, that's true.
Always buying, no matter what time of year. It's just maybe not as many.
Yes. Now, you did mention the association.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on here is that you are running to be on the board of our local Cape Fear Realtors. And so you have been on there before.
Yes.
And you were the chair, right?
I was president in 2016.
2016. And so talk a little bit about what that organization kind of is all about.
Okay. As I told you before we started, I have a disclaimer.
Yes.
The voice of our association is our current president. Gosh, I'm going to forget her name. Brittany is the first name, but I just forgot her last name. Anyway, she's the voice of our association.
Gotcha.
But our association is 3,500 members. We're a nonprofit association, but the profit end is our MLS.
Gotcha.
So we make our money from the MLS and the rents on our building. That's a whole other story about that building. But we try to facilitate the best member experience for our members so they can run their business as economically and prosperous as they can.
So, with real estate, obviously it's very local, but there's also like a big national organization, the National Association of Realtors. Everyone knows a lot about them with the lawsuit recently and sort of the settlement. And so what sort of relationship is that? I mean, are you guys a part of that, or how does that work?
When you get your license in real estate, to be a member of our association, you have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors.
Gotcha. Okay.
NAR, because they have a code of ethics that we abide by. And then you also must be part of NCR, which is North Carolina Realtors. So, when you join, you got NAR dues, you got NCR dues, you got CFR dues, and the MLS dues. So we have a, what you call it? It's a symbiotic relationship.
Gotcha.
We have to participate in all of them. And Lynn and I, we've been very, very active in the state association. And people ask us, well, why do you do that? Well, because we go across the state, we meet other realtors. We live at the coast, and that's called referrals.
Yes.
And so we get referrals from our fellow realtors across the state. Just yesterday, I submitted my application to be an NAR director for Cape Fear Realtors.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I'll get it, but I put my application in. I've been an NAR director before, back in 18 and 19 and 20, I think it was. And that provided me an opportunity to go to legislative meetings in D.C. and then the national conventions wherever they were held, and meet people, hear the issues, learn things to bring back to our local association, share that knowledge with them. But we always encourage our local members to be active in the state association because it's our industry.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a realtor, be a professional realtor, make it your job.
Well, I mean, what's interesting too also about the real estate industry is they do have regulations impact us pretty strongly. And so a lot of people wonder why, especially the NAR is one of the stronger lobbying groups in DC. Yeah. And, a lot of people wonder why that is. And it's like, well, because when rules get changed, and of course now the mortgage industry after 2008, now it's also has some pretty strong regulations with the CFPB. However, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that organization. But the regulations exist as of now, and it's all about, providing a sort of safety to consumers. But I mean, it's always a very delicate balance between what's in the best interest of consumers and actually kind of harming consumers and over-regulating an industry. And so that is, I think, an important reason why you need to be involved in the state and national, because what's happening there can impact you down here.
Well, and the Real Estate Commission is our governing body. They make our rules. We have to have a license, and they're the ones who administer that license. They also set rules for agencies, agency representation, and it always baffles me, and I've had these discussions with our commissioners, real estate commissioners, and the executive director. If it's all about consumer protection, why do they allow dual agency, where you have a buyer or an agent representing both parties? It's hard to serve two masters.
True.
So I don't quite understand it, and
you do have to get, I think, both sides have to agree to that.
Both
correct?
sides have to agree, but then you're a mediator. You're not an agent. You can't recommend. You can't advise. You say, this is the price. This is what you're offering. You have to stay in the middle, and you can't breach that confidentiality for both parties. So it's difficult to do it right. I don't like doing it, but sometimes I have, but I don't like to. My wife loves it. I mean, but commercial's different than residential.
Commercial's very different,
Very, very different,
Yeah, well, I mean, it is interesting how different those two are. And I mean, I don't want to get too much into commercial, but we have been hearing these horror stories in bigger cities with just commercials just absolutely taking a hit. But it seems like in Wilmington, I mean, commercial seems to be knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, there's a lack of inventory.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife has several clients. Many commercial people do the 1031s. They will take a building, they will invest in it, then they will sell it and take that proceeds and their profit and buy another building. So they just keep rolling it over. But there's no buildings to buy right now. Industrial properties are very limited. Stuff over here like at Dutch Square. That goes like, I'd buy one today if I could, but there's none on the market.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, you're out of the downtown office.
Yes.
And, downtown, I love downtown. And
I do too.
Yeah, it's awesome. But, I mean, it really kind of shows you that sort of kind of hybrid situation where you have sort of residential and commercial all kind of in the same place. But, I mean, even downtown, I mean, it's interesting to look at just there's very few versus, where we were 30 years ago downtown.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
There is almost like no vacant places. There's like a few buildings, but I mean, it's amazing how full downtown is.
People often walk in and say, I'd like to rent about 1,300 square feet on Front Street. I laugh. And I think there's one empty space, but it's Pender Grill.
Yeah.
It's never occupied, but it's right there next to the bank building on the corner of Chestnut and Front.
Yeah.
Is it Chestnut? Yeah.
The old Bank of America?
Yeah, Bank of America. And I keep trying to find the owner because I could rent that. I'd love to, if they would sell it, I'd love to buy it, and because that's a hot property.
No, yeah.
But there's nothing else down there.
Exactly. Yeah. It is amazing. And the constant renovations that are taking place and what they're doing. I mean, right next to your guys' office, you have that new co-work space.
Yeah.
That just adds a tremendous amount of value. They completely just redid kind of where you are, and then I know that this street up on Front Street, they did that a couple years ago where they were kind of more. I can't remember what the project exactly was, but it did make the street look a lot better.
Yeah. Well, back in the 80s, you didn't go downtown.
Yes,
it was not necessary. I don't want to say it's unsafe, but it was just nothing but bars.
Well, it was bars, and actually there were strip clubs.
Yeah,
I mean, it was amazing.
I never went into those.
If you can go back, if you go online, you can find a photo from I think the early '80s, and it's a picture and it has the Dixie Grill, and in between the Dixie Grill were two topless bars.
Oh my!
And it's like you're like, what? It's like,
but what's getting ready to change down there is the Grace Street project.
Oh,
that library is incredible. The museum with the planetarium.
Yeah.
And then if the grocery store comes to fruition there on Princess and Third, that downtown's the place to be. It's a place to invest. Project
Grace is, I know it's been getting some criticism with some just because of some of the overages that have taken place. But I mean, I for the first time they finally took down the scaffolding and I got to see it.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wow, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But I told people that, when I was on the radio, I was not a huge fan of some. I think it was when the Wilson Center was doing some expansion back in I think 08 or 09. They built Union Station. They built the Wilson Center, and I can't remember the third building might have been the North Campus. But I wasn't a big fan because it seemed like there was kind of a bait and switch going on. They originally were going to do a nursing building, then they didn't. But I'll tell you, the Wilson Center, I mean, what it did in Union Station, what it did to that side of downtown, where if you go back and just look in 09, 10, where the Wilson Center is now, it was like vacant.
Yeah.
And now you have the city block apartments got built. You have those townhouses behind it. You have Pier 33, you got Sawmill, all those. I mean, it is amazing what has happened on the north side of downtown.
Yeah, and then 4th Street, North 4th Street. And then it's, that project that started 25 years ago or so. They had North 4th Street improvement plan.
Yeah.
And it's coming to fruition finally.
You truly can see that when you do kind of, I talked to Commissioner Dane Scalise about this, he talked about sort of having that anchor. And sometimes government can kind of fill that role where it's like they build that building that does, make sense for for community college need to have that Wilson Center. A lot of acts go there. But then it spurred all of this private sector growth that has been beneficial for everyone, including the government, including the people. I mean, because as you see this growth, it becomes a safer place because there's more people, and the more people.
I'm glad Luke Waddell, who's a realtor and a city council member, we do have issues with homeless, and I sympathize with them, but we can't have them sleeping on the streets. It scares the hell out of our tourists.
It does, yeah.
And some of them, when they're off their meds, they're scary people.
No. I mean, it never going to be perfect. I mean, it does feel like we've seen a little bit of a decline, but as someone who, grew up in DC, it could be worse. But yeah, I mean, just it's been pretty amazing what has happened with downtown. And I mean, I would assume, how long have you been? So have you been in the downtown office?
I've been down there 4 years. I left Lumina Station to move to downtown. And the primary reason is David Aller, who's down there.
Yeah.
He says we get a lot of walk-by traffic. I said, really? So I went down there and watched. People stop by our window all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I love to go out and engage them, welcome them to Wilmington, because you can tell if they're a tourist or
That's
not.
right.
So
we
I
know.
welcome them, and I said, where are y'all from? And start that conversation. Who knows? It may lead to a sale, but it welcomes them to our city.
Yeah.
They wouldn't need to be. They need to feel welcomed here.
Well, that's an interesting. I also want to talk about that because downtown does. There are a lot of walk-ins, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But it seems like that was maybe like a lot of other, not just Intracoastal, but just other offices that are kind of, you just don't have the same walkability that you do with downtown. That used to be maybe a way that people got a lot of leads in the real estate industry, and that's kind of changed. Other than sort of a downtown location, you don't maybe not see as many walk-ins as you used to.
The Lumina Station, the coastal office over there, we used to have Port City Java.
Yeah.
Right
I remember that. Yeah.
And we'd get walk-by traffic, and we'd get some walk-ins.
Yeah.
And now that new restaurant, I forget what it is, it's taking up all the parking in the parking lot.
Oh, Blueberry?
Blueberry,
Yeah.
It's an excellent restaurant.
Great place, yeah.
But I don't know if that office is getting the walk-in that
It used to.
that we're they used to, or that we're getting downtown.
Yeah.
Coldwell Banker's downtown, Berkshire Hathaway's downtown, and I don't know that they get the same walk-in because ours is just suited perfectly for stopping and looking in the window.
Yeah.
And then for somebody like me to go out and tackle them.
And you got the dog biscuits.
They got the dog biscuits.
So the dogs have to stop, and it's like, got them.
Yeah, we're dog friendly down there.
No, I mean I think I do think from what I've seen, because I kind of walk that street every once in a while, and it does seem like you guys get more people stopping than maybe some of the other real estate
the other
locations.
one's on the corner, and it's elevated. It doesn't have that eye level.
Yeah.
Eye level,
But so, what would you say? What are some of the other things that have sort of changed as you've been in the industry? I would think that some like sort of the use of these websites or people going to look at properties versus back in the day when you kind of had to rely on an agent. Yeah,
AI. So virtual staging is huge.
And I will say that has gotten so good.
Yeah.
That there are a lot of them where I'm like, wait, hold on, and then the next picture everything's gone, and I'm like, I thought like
Yeah.
the shadowing. I mean, they make it look like they're actually there.
When we go to listing appointments, people say, well, is it better to leave the house furnished or vacant? I can go ahead and move out. I said, well, it depends. And
Yeah.
now with virtual staging, I can make it look lived in, every room, and you don't have the clutter that you have when
Yeah.
somebody lives in a house. So you clear the closets out, clear the drawers out, it makes it more spacious. And virtual staging helps somebody realize, oh, well, I can put my stuff in here.
Yeah.
And they can take the blank house and put their own stuff in virtually. That's huge. But AI, are you talking to a person? Are you talking to who you talking to?
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to someone the other day about how a lot of agents use AI to write their kind of summary for the homes.
I'm guilty.
And, no, I mean, listen, everyone's used it. But what I think is going to end up happening is that AI has a very sort of interesting way of writing, where now you're seeing you're getting sort of a kind of, everything sounds kind of the same because everyone's using it. So it's almost like the people that aren't using AI are going to stand out. So then people are going to stop using AI because everyone becomes too uniform.
When I write a description and I give it to AI to make it better,
Yeah.
I go, okay, let's take this AI. That sounds a whole lot better than what I had.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also, but also what's interesting about that is that, how often is the description the seller of the house? Usually it's like the picture is what's really going to light it up.
And people who put bad pictures in are not doing their clients any justice.
Yeah.
And people who put their houses on the market without getting it ready.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in, you see dishes in the sink and stuff like that. What? Who's thinking? Yes, thinking. But the thing that concerns me the most is AI going to take the place of a realtor? The realtor's got to stay relevant in the transaction, and will be, I think. But when Zillow they start putting electronic locks on the doors and grant you access with cameras, seeing who's coming and going, and then everything's online. I mean, you're offered to purchase everything, but the realtor has to find a way to stay in the transaction and in the process, because if we don't, we'll be left behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even more so true on the mortgage side, where you do see people nowadays who can get loans. They're used to it, like younger people. They get a thing in the mail, and you go online and say you apply for a loan, and then boom, all of a sudden, you're applied. You never talk to anybody, and it's like, so could that happen in the mortgage? I mean, to me, I look at AI as like most other technological advances, where it's a productivity gain, where it's going to make everyone more productive.
Let's hope so.
Which is already what's happened.
Yeah.
If you look at technology, where you talk to people who've been in the business a lot longer on the mortgage side, and it's like they remember when you used to have to get verifications of income in the mail and a credit report in the mail, and you had to do all that. It took
you
60
got to
days
have
to
that
close.
relationship with your lender.
Yeah,
I tell people, don't do something online who's in, they're in Nevada or something. Have a local lender who you have a relationship with that will have your back.
Yes.
And know the rules here. So the rocket mortgages scare me to death. Can I close on time? Will they be ready?
Well, I think that's the thing, is that I think what's going to happen is that like any other technological advance, where the people who are good will just have more business and be able to do more business because they can do more, because they're more efficient. Yeah. And the people who are bad will be gone. And sure, you're always going to have these other sort of players who will steal some market share, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are not going to feel that comfortable, because all it takes is one horror story for someone to use one of these services. They get to closing day and it turns out, they actually can't do your loan. And then they're going to tell everyone how horrible of an experience they had.
The Google reviews are not your friend sometimes.
And so I do feel like that's not going to change. I mean, it's actually going to become more important.
I hope so.
As those Google reviews become sort of more valuable. I mean, because that's another thing I think that's sort of interesting too, is that now you do have these sort of online reviews, which can be a blessing, but it can also be kind of awful if you have a horrible client who blames you for everything.
Well, and you may not have done anything wrong, but their perception that could ruin your whole career.
Yeah.
And that's why I always get my clients to give me good reviews.
Yeah.
I'll publish those. But one thing I want to say is that, people get into real estate business because they think, oh, it's not very many hours.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a bunch of money. I've got a friend over at Loggerhead that gives me a hard time when I go in to see him, and he says, "You never work." I said, "Breck, I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays included. You just don't see it."
Yeah.
But the whole thing about real estate is you can't go into it for the compensation. You have to go in for the client and their experience, and realizing that you're helping them buy the most valuable item that they're ever probably going to buy. And that's got to be your primary purpose. It's not, oh, I'm going to make, good money on this transaction. You want multiple transactions from that client. So you create that relationship just like you do. You want multiple loans and you want that relationship. So will they call you next year?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, to your point, there is this sort of, especially like I could tell people were thinking there was a bubble because all of a sudden all these like shows popped up about realtors and it's like, oh, they're in LA and they're selling like 20, 30, 40, $80 million houses and they're getting these like $5 million commissions and they're wearing all these luxury clothes and driving Ferraris and people are like, whoa, I want to become a real estate agent. Yeah. And it's like, sure. Okay. There are a few people like that exist in the world. The compensation, when you are doing like in our case, a bigger loan, a bigger house sale, like it is impressive. But people don't realize sort of what goes into that, the expenses that go into that. They just see that like, oh, you get 2% or 3% or whatever, not realizing that, the company you work for gets a cut, you're spending money on marketing, all of these things. You still got
three, you got NAR, SCR, CFR. Yeah, people see $1 million sale for a piece of real estate, which isn't outrageous anymore.
Not here
in Wilmington. Well, they think, oh, well, you made $1 million in commission. No, I got to pay the piper.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, a lot of splits come out of that 2.5% or 3%.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you don't make that much on each transaction. Again, it's multiple transactions. That's where a realtor makes money.
And so, what is interesting now on the mortgage side, it's a little harder to do this because as a loan officer, I am an employee of town, and so it's a little different than real estate, where you guys are sort of
we're independent
contractors, and so you do have people who aren't full-time realtors. And how do you feel that sort of plays into it? Because it is an industry where you don't normally see part-time people other than like hourly jobs, and this is a pretty important job. And
I got to be careful when I go down this rocky road. I don't want to get. I'm a full-time realtor.
Yeah.
My wife's a full-time. It's our business. It's our whole passion. All we talk about at home is real estate.
Yeah.
I wish we could talk about something else, but it's what we do, and we're immersed in it. And I wish there wasn't a part-time component, but I understand people have to pay their bills, and if it's a good way to break into it, when I did it, I just went in cold turkey, went all in, and that's what I did. I didn't have another job. I just sometimes concerned that part-time realtors are not staying abreast of all the things that's going to impact a client, buyer or seller, if they're not fully immersed in it. It's so changing right now. I mean, it's so dynamic. But again, it's part of the business. It's it is what it is.
Before we close out, I did want to kind of go back to running for the Cape Few Realtors, and you talked about some of the some of the reasons why the organization exists. So you've served on there, you've been the president before. So what's sort of your motivation in going back?
Well, going back, truthfully, I don't have an agenda.
Okay.
Let me just say that I do not have an agenda to go back. Although there's one thing I'm going to address once if I'm lucky enough to get elected. There was one thing I want to address. But truly, I've been in this business 22 years, and I've served at local, state, and national level. I want to bring that experience back to our local and see if I can be a benefit to the association by remembering what we did, the positives and the negatives, and make sure that we move forward on the right path to help our members be successful.
So how many directors are there?
There's 15 directors.
15.
And then we have our leadership team, which is the past president, the president-elect, and the vice president, and it's a progression. When you sign on for the leadership role, that's at minimum 4-year commitment, because our leadership team does participate in the state and the national. Cape Fear Realtors have made a name for themselves at the state association, just because of the way we run things and how involved we are. Biggest thing I want to mention is RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee. It's not Republican Political Action Committee, but it's the Realtor, and we support all candidates that are our friends in real estate. Whether it's Democrat or whether it's a Republican or independent. If they support real estate issues, realtor issues, then we will support them. And that's when the realtors give to the RPAC, it's showing them that they have confidence in our association, that we're going to protect them. Especially like when we went to the state association and they went to General Assembly, and General Assembly wanted to tax our commissions. And we said, no. So we fought hard for that. Now we got insurance issues. That, my goodness, that's a scary thing for this area. So the realtors stay active in governmental affairs, and we do that to help our members.
Now, how long is each term? So how long would you be on there for?
This term I'm running for is 3 years.
3 years, okay.
So, yeah.
And how many people how many people have declared they're running, and how many spots are there available?
It looks like there's 3 spots available,
okay.
And I think there's like 7 or 8. I can't remember, 7 or 8 people. I will say I'm the most experienced on that, but I know there's some good people on there that are also running. I'd love to be able to serve with them. The 15, and then we are electing the vice president.
Gotcha.
Yeah, vice president, yeah.
Now before I go, because you mentioned the PAC, I did want to ask, because it does seem like, just from what I see, comments that are being made, and especially on Facebook and other places, there is sort of people. There are a lot of people who are involved in real estate that are in political office, and people. There seems to be kind of a backlash against that, and I mean, there's no doubt that that's going to play a role with the organization that you want to be a part of, because I mean, that sort of what the role is, and so how do you kind of balance that?
That's the 3 mayoral, is that right? The mayor candidates.
Yes, yeah.
All of them are realtors. Bill Saffa is a realtor with Coldwell Banker. Jonathan Barfield is an independent with his own firm, and the other gentleman is with Keller Williams. I'm sorry, somebody else wants to be mayor and not be a realtor. They need to step up and run. But Billy's done real good for our city. If some people don't agree with that, I think Billy's done a great job. I think Jonathan would do a great job. He's a local guy. But Luke Waddell and Charlie Reidenbach, they're all realtors, but they've given their time and their passions to the community. And if somebody else doesn't like that, they need to run.
Well, I mean, do you think it's also, because let's face it, there are 2 industries that tend to get, we see a lot of candidates come from. It's real estate and law.
Yeah.
And I think it's because both of those professions, the vast majority of people in those positions, especially in this area, tend to be people who are kind of independent contractors, where either you're a sole practitioner attorney or you're independent contractor real estate agent. And so it seems that, because I will say, like I said, I had Commissioner Dane Scalise on here. I've been friends with Dane for a while, and every time I talk to him, and I remember talking to Deb Hayes when she was on the commission, and every time I talk to Dane, they were going from a meeting to another meeting. And so it's like, it would be hard to be in office and have a 9-to-5 job, because you can't just take off one day and go to 5 different community meetings.
This community lost a valuable asset when Deb Hayes passed away.
Yes.
That woman was incredible about what she gave back to this community, in detriment to her business and her personal health. She gave more to the community than she took away. And
100%.
And let me throw this plug in right now. There is a golf tournament, Porter's Neck, on the 15th of September. 15th? Yeah. And it's a memorial for Deb, but it's also a fundraiser for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But Lynn and I are playing because we're supporting Deb.
Yes. Yeah.
Deb was a dear, dear friend, and we miss her greatly.
No, I mean, like I said, I talked to her a few times. I had her on my radio show a bunch of times. And she ran for city council and then county commission. And so I kept up with her. And I mean, you know, even when I got off the radio, I was a nobody. So when I was on the radio, she had a reason to pick up the phone. But when I was not on the radio, she still picked up the phone. And she'd be in between meetings. And I mean, yes, she was a person who really, truly loved this area and wanted it to be better. And I feel that way about, you know, Dane as well. Yes, Dane, 100%.
Dane picks up my phones or answers my emails, and I'm so happy with what he did over on Independence Boulevard with that piece of property. He said he was going to do that, and he did it. I think he also has the community best interest in his heart. I think all the commissioners do. I really do. But Dane, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, no, I paid him to say that, Dane.
You're welcome, Dane.
But yeah, I mean, and it does feel like you have to have that flexibility because Dane is an attorney.
Yes.
Also works at Griffin Estep on the insurance side as well. But he does have that flexibility. And so I do feel like that is one of the reasons why. But also, when you are a real estate agent, I mean, and I mean, I just know this from the mortgage side, but there is a lot like different communities that you're showing. You know a lot about the area, a lot about what's going on. So you almost develop a sort of political activism just because from a community perspective, because you see so much every day of the community, which I think could be a reason why people will be like, hey, you know what, we got to fix this one turn lane. We got to fix this one intersection because you're in it more than most people.
Yeah. Well, and I go back, I got here I moved down here in January 1973. Mm-hmm. So I've been in this community a long time, and that's partly why I'm successful, because I do know the area so very well. I used to be with WECT.
Oh, yeah.
Did I ever tell you that?
No, I think you did mention it one time. Yes, yeah.
And back in the day, back in the late 70s, Ken Murphy, Wayne Jackson.
Yeah.
They were icons in this
I remember
town.
Ken Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, and this was before I-40 got here.
Yes.
So this was a very little city, and I was fortunate to know it like the back of my hand. Now, it's grown tremendously. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, we're a little bit behind the eight ball on infrastructure and roads, but I think there's a good plan by city and DOT. What's Mayor Sappho say? He says it's short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah.
And, traffic's not bad here.
No, it's not. Compared to what it used to be.
You compare what it used to be and what it could be. Raleigh. I mean, look at Raleigh or Charlotte. But there's times of days you don't go places around here. Mm-hmm. You pick and choose where you go and when you go. But this is the greatest place on this planet to live.
Well, I mean, so I live downtown, and this office, the studio, is in Mayfair pretty much. And, since they built MLK, the fact that I can get from downtown to here in like 17 minutes.
It's amazing.
That's so amazing because it's like that was built for that reason.
Yeah.
And it has made it so much easier to get from downtown to the beach.
Yes.
And so it's like there's an example of a plan coming together and working.
It took forever.
Yes.
Because it started out as Smith Creek Parkway.
Yeah.
And then it changed names, but it took forever to get that road built.
Yeah.
And it did have some benefits. Look at Military Cutoff all the way out to I-140. That's a time saver for me.
Oh,
I don't go up 17 at certain times of the day because you'll get into a traffic jam in a heartbeat.
Well, I will say, Don, hopefully you're able to help with that growth to some extent when you get on the board and can provide some guidance for some of our local politicians. But, Don, I appreciate you taking the time today.
My pleasure,
because,
Don.
as we said, this could be a busy day for you, and so you took some time out, so I appreciate that. But thanks for joining me here on the podcast.
You're very welcome. I'm going to head down to Wrightsville Beach now to the Seaside Club and see if there's any big waves.
I'm sure there are.
I hope so.
Hurricane Aaron's bringing them.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.